Good day, y'all. Today is a topic that is true to my heart, and I love to experience or hear different viewpoints on this topic, and that is the return on investment when a family unit is pursuing the next move from high school to college. We all like to say that our money and our value is important, but let's try to break that down just a little further. Today, Mr. Jensen, my co-host, how are you, sir?
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Awesome. And you are a subject matter expert in this college world. But again, we're going to talk about the ROI and selecting a major and anything else we can think of that will help our families better understand this process. So let's start with this. In planning for a major, is it important for one to lock down what that's going to look like in terms of selecting one? Or if they're undecided, is there pros and cons to that?
I believe so. So I guess first of all, we want to talk about what ROI is.
Yes.
So ROI is generally defined as the increase in lifetime earnings that a student can expect, right, when they enroll in a certain degree program, and if you take out the cost of tuition fee, book supplies, the whole thing. And also you also have to include the lost earnings while enrolled.
Yes. Great point.
Which I think is really important when you get to the graduate programs. Undergraduate programs, not as much. So obviously, the highest ROI comes from the STEM fields, right? Engineering, computer science, mathematics, science. Those are generally going to have your highest ROI. In addition, nursing has also become a very lucrative field to get into, as long as you have like a BSN or an RN and you're moving up the ladder for those.
Right.
In terms of majors, here's where I think it becomes a little bit more challenging. Students in the arts, education, and psychology, literature generally do not enjoy the same boost to earnings as others in more science, math related fields.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think that's not the whole entirety of the story. As an example, I know a gentleman who graduated with a degree in both philosophy and psychology. That set him up really well for law school.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's different, right? So now when you measure his ROI, well, yeah, his 2 degrees, while in the humanities, really set him up very well for going to law school, getting through, understanding how people think and why people think they do the way they do.
But let me hit the pause button for a second. So if we talk about philosophy or psychology, I'm just speaking for the average person. So they know what that means, and they may like the courses. Everybody approaches it differently, but long term, what's the best route for them to really understand that field and or the career potential thereafter and or earnings? Is that something they should look on or not?
I think they should.
Yeah.
And I think they have to, right?
Okay.
So some of the statistics that are out there, bachelor degree programs have a median ROI of 160,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's quite large.
Yeah.
However, I mean, I also think that if you were to take out the engineering, computer science, nursing, okay, then I think you're going to see your ROI drop precipitously.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the ROI for law school, med schools, those also tend to skew these statistics a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I do think when it comes down to major, I'm gonna go against the grain. I think it matters less what you major in than what you do around your major.
Okay, give me an example.
So I have a student who is really interested in marketing. It just turns out that she happened to be bilingual.
Cool.
She was really unhappy with the math classes that she had to take to get into the business school part of the marketing. She just struggled with it.
Hmm.
So after talking to her advisor, we decided that she was going to major in Spanish.
Hmm.
So while she was able to major in Spanish, what she could do with the extra, so it's the extra classes, the other filler classes. I hate to use that word,
Yeah.
but that's what they are. So that's when she took all of the marketing classes that were available to her that weren't simply math based. So she could get all the marketing knowledge, and then being bilingual, especially as someone who's, in that part of the country,
Hmm.
it's extremely important. So she actually opened up her job market, and her ability to make earnings that was increased by her choice of
Right.
Spanish as a degree.
Sure. Right. So there's a lot of factors, but one thing that comes to my mind is even if one picks majors that they're interested in, or they're not sure, they go into general or whatever's easier, maybe. So what things within that process would help them better fulfill their portfolio? Meaning internships. What baby steps can they do within that process to help that secure job thereafter?
Right. So I think the first challenge is figuring out what you really want to do. So I'm a huge proponent of finding someone who has the job, someone who has your perfect job. You need to reach out to that person if you can, get in touch with them, and ask them to help you work backwards.
Okay.
So I need to know what kind of internships did you have? What kind of
Right.
experience did you get? Where did you get that experience? Now we're going to take it back a step further. So what did you learn in college? What's the most important classes that you took during your schooling that helped you in your job? What other classes would you suggest taking? So I really think that when you have the, what do I want to say? When you have your major picked out, it's filling it in with the other classes that will allow you to better market yourself
Right.
in in your field. So while the major is important,
Hmm.
I think that everything that you do around it can be more important. You need class fillers, and then you need to spend your summers doing something in the field in which you want to be employed.
Right.
That's
Right.
that's most important. That's the easiest thing to gain experience.
That makes sense. So without the branch too far to the right, if they're looking for internships, and I just started this, wasn't part of our discussion per se. Um, is it better that they go look for internships themselves rather than solely rely on the school?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
in a perfect world, you're going to do both, right? So you're going to leverage your network. Now, in college, you probably may not have a large one.
Yeah.
Okay, but don't be afraid to ask professors. Don't be afraid to ask your parents. Your parents have a much larger network than what you think.
Right.
So that would be a great place to start as well.
Okay.
So use the resources that the school will provide to you, but also reach out on your own as well.
Okay. I'm gonna share one example of mine, not necessarily to you, but just to the audience. And I said this before in a prior conversation. So when I went to when I needed it, when my time came for an internship, the school, and it's a well-known school in sports marketing slash business, there was no opportunity, and my time was ticking. So people laugh, but looking back, they understand. I reached out to the Super Bowl directly, right? Had to jump through a couple hoops. Finally got a hold of the right person who laughed initially that I just called him out of the blue, explaining my situation that in an internship, but I was truly invested and interested in that sports marketing world. So I think he was so shocked that I called him directly that he said, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it." So I had to figure out the logistics thereafter because I was relatively young. Housing. I was in Washington D.C. and I had to get down to New Orleans. But all those things were secondary, right? You made it work to get it done. But that spoke volumes in terms of complementing my degree and moving forward. It was just that notch on the belt. So yes, what we both said is definitely of value for sure. Now, we didn't talk about this per se, but let's tread lightly, if you don't mind, on loans and the ROI, and we'll keep it loose, right? But
Right.
sometimes I cringe at family units taking out this crazy amount of money, and you know the deal. What they're going to get out of it or not, I don't know if that's really a consideration. And I know it's hard to determine what you're going to get out of it. But when you have that large amount of money, in addition to what's the norm, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? How do you process that?
Okay, so I love the fact that I get questions all the time. Should I go to this school, which has a lesser reputation, but it's free, or I can go to this school, which is much, much more prestigious. It'll only cost me $80,000 a year. And I'm like, okay, you're foolish. Here's the thing for me. Underpay for your undergrad.
Okay.
If you understand that you're going to need a higher degree, if you need a master's degree, if you need a doctorate for whatever it is that you want to do, underpay for your undergrad, overpay for your grad school.
Interesting.
No one ever asks the doctor where they went to undergrad.
Right.
They have the plaque on the wall that says
Yeah.
Harvard Medical School.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell them that you went to Kennesaw State because
Right.
it's free.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think that you pay the least amount as possible for your undergraduate degree.
Right. Now, whether you agree or not, and I won't ask that your opinion on that, but I think even the community college piece, and where you go thereafter, and then maybe thereafter, the community college is just like a blip on the radar, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And I did this math like yesterday, and this is your expertise, really not mine, of a parent who their kid was shooting for the stars, but when it came time to finance that process, we're looking at $250,000 or more for the 4 years. Now, when I did the math based on an 8% interest rate for 10 years, right, typical, that's close to $3,000 a month.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, you're that's more of your world than mine, but I'm like, wow, you just better make sure that's understood, even if you can get approved for that.
Right.
Right. So what, in addition to what you said, are there any right now where we stand in terms of projection of hot majors or valued or preferred majors, however you want to coin it? Does that exist?
I don't know that hot majors really, okay, that's not true. 5 years ago, every student I talked to said, I'm going to major in computer science.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I haven't had a computer science major in 5 years. Today, everyone wants to be an engineer.
Yeah.
Because engineers make a lot of money.
Right.
That's the only thing I hear from students. And the other one is finance. I'm going to go into finance.
Right.
Please help me understand. Oh, it's my second favorite thing. My first is I'm going to go into business. What's business?
Right. Now you say that, and that's a good point, because the word finance, the word business, even the word engineering to a high school junior or senior, I'm not saying they don't understand the scope of what each of those means more in depth, but sometimes they don't. Like, what does an engineer mean?
Correct. I think too often they get locked into, I heard that engineers make a lot of money, so that's what I want to do. I want to work on Wall Street.
Yeah.
But you have no idea of the number of hours that it takes to work on Wall Street. So it's very interesting. I think we're really doing our children a disservice by simply giving them, this is what you need to do to make money. At what point I think they've actually figured it out. There is a certain dollar amount above which making more doesn't make you happier.
Yeah, but they don't get that.
No, they don't. No one understands that. And
right.
And it's really,
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But yeah, yeah. So what would be your suggestion to the average family unit, parent, student, guardian who is a junior, sophomore, junior into senior, which can be a little too late, but kind of not? What would be your suggestion in terms of mentorship? Meaning, how can they fully get a handle on this whole college process? Listen, the schools can do what they can. I'm just doing the averages. We know that, good or bad. But what could put that student over the edge in terms of having as much information as possible to make that their educated decision about their future? Who do they look for?
Right. And I think, well, I think you stated it exactly correctly. They need to make an educated decision. I think way too late in the process, families, the entire family unit needs to have a conversation about what is affordable and what is not.
Okay, so when do they do that?
That should be a conversation probably at the end of their sophomore year.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because going into junior year, college becomes more of a focus. And you may want to start looking at schools, and the students will start hearing about schools, and they'll be talking to their senior friends, and I got into this school and I got into this school. That's great. It's the worst feeling in the world to hear from a student that you just got accepted to Yale, not offering any aid.
Right.
And you're looking at $80,000 a year, and you're just like, it makes no sense.
Go ahead. I know the answer.
So I really think that that's when you have to have those conversations. I also think that students need to be prepared to specifically state what it is that they want to do. And now I know that's asking a lot of a 16, 17-year-old young person, right?
Yeah.
But if you say that you want to be an engineer, what does that really mean? Do you want to do chemical engineering, mechanical, civil? There's a whole bunch of different things and really great schools for each one of them. So you need to work, I think, harder on determining what it is that really, what do I want to say? Set you on fire.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it, right? But
yeah.
Why do parents, and I know the answer, you know the answer, but let's pretend we don't. Why do parents put off talking about the finances for college? And they do. Let's just face it, they do.
They do. Because it's tough. It's hard. It might be even embarrassing.
Right. Yep.
Because I know that a lot of, you can start saving money and then things happen.
Yep.
The cost of education has vastly outperformed any of the markets. If I could have invested in that, I would have. So I think that's what makes it hard. It's just a challenge to do that.
What do parents? It's not a what should they do, but if parents can't afford it and the kid wants to go to a school and financially they can't, what's that conversation look like?
That's a really hard conversation. And the conversation has to be, as much as we love you and as much as we want you to go to the school that you want to go to, we would be fiscally irresponsible if we allowed you to take on so much debt today that's going to have a negative impact on you in 4 or 5 years. And
or both of you.
Yes, right, both. So what happens if you take out $250,000 in loans, and now you're telling me that it's $3,000 a month to pay it back? Well, how does that work then? How do you afford $3,000 a month to pay your student loans? Plus you have to find a place to rent. Plus you have to have a car and insurance and maybe eat food every once in a while.
Yeah.
All of those things. Yeah. Life happens. So I really think that it's a very challenging conversation. It needs to happen sooner rather than later, just so that the student can have an idea.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that there aren't programs, there aren't scholarships, and there are great ways to make those things happen. So when you get a financial aid offer and it comes in as not enough, appeal it.
Oh,
I would, yes. Why not? The answer is always no until you ask.
Now,
And
what do you mean? So appeal it, and what would be the basis for that?
that's the challenge. You have to have something that you can put that basis on. Look, these are my
Right.
grades. Okay, you saw my grades at the very beginning of the year. These are my grades at the end of the year now. These are the other things that I have done. These are
Hmm.
the other places I have participated. I volunteered here. I've worked here. I've done an internship here. These are all things that I believe would make me a more attractive student. And I also think it really helps to give them a number. Don't just say, I want more aid. Because
Okay.
they'll come back and they'll say, okay, here's $3,000. And you're like, okay, I needed 25. Well,
Wow.
while I appreciate the three, that's not going to do, that's not going to move the needle.
Hmm. Hmm.
So give them a number, give them a solid number and say, look, I need $25,000 more in financial aid in order to make this happen.
So I like that. I never heard of that part. So is that really on their end a tuition discount, right?
Yes, it's either a tuition discount, some form of merit aid,
Okay.
financial need-based aid as well.
Okay.
Now, if something has happened, something material, a parent loses a job, gets demoted, anything,
Hmm.
those are things that you can also use as a way to leverage your ability and your ability to pay, causing them to have to give you some more financial aid.
All right. So I'm just thinking out loud here.
Mhm.
With that said, does the school look at it if that was the proposal from the student to the student to the school? Does the school look at the program itself in terms of enrollment and the availability and the big picture on their end? Like, meaning if there's a lower enrollment program, they're like, we could squeeze a couple nickels here.
Yes, and I think that is true. So I think you do have a challenge. So if you're going into, the business school,
Hmm.
then yeah, do they need to give you a discount? Probably not, because they have other students who would be able to fill that role and not have to pay them more. Now, if
Hmm.
you have someone who's coming in and they're like, yeah, I'm going to study the classics. Okay, you and like four other people. So I think it really makes more sense. Okay, well then maybe we can work a little something here. We might have some more funds.
Right.
Exactly.
So my takeaway is everything's negotiable, possibly.
Yes, it
That's
is.
a great point. I don't think many parents know that, and that's good stuff.
Exactly.
All right, so I appreciate you talking. I think we covered the importance and the value and what to look out for with the quote ROI, return on investment, both from a major, both with the finances, and all those components we talked about to get from point A to B that would help you in terms of your portfolio. One thing I wanted to ask you, totally off the subject a little bit, what do you make of or heard of video admission, not substituting the application, but what about a video piece that the student gives admissions? And in addition to the essay, that's what I'm trying to say. In addition to the essay, have you heard of that?
Indeed, I have. Yes,
Okay,
and there are some schools that do that. Personally, I think it's great.
good.
It allows the reader or the viewer in this case to really figure out who you are.
Yeah.
It's your opportunity to speak, to be heard, to be seen. Maybe explain a little bit more about. Now, granted, they don't give you a whole lot of time. You have a minute or a minute and a half, maybe
Sure.
minutes, but even in that time, I think it's great. If you ever have, if anyone who's listening has the opportunity, absolutely submit that as well.
Now, could you, if it's not talked about, or if there's no indication that the school wants that or is asking for it, maybe they just don't. Would it hurt to ask them? Is it okay if I?
Absolutely, it would not hurt at all. I think in the additional information section on the common application, there is a space. And if you wanted to, you could attach a link to a 1 or 2 minute YouTube video.
No longer.
Yep, no longer.
No longer, right?
Try and keep it short, but yeah.
But yeah, I always thought that there's so much value in that, right? Your eye community, your verbal, nonverbal, the way you dress, right? If you're looking down at your paper while you're answering the questions, if there is a format of sort, they're not prepared.
Exactly. exactly.
In addition to, right, the typical essay, let's call it for what it is. It's reviewed by many people, rightly so, professionals on behalf of the student before it's submitted, right, to help. But hey, on that video, it's game time.
It is, and it's so much easier and it's so much more personalized.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree with me. I like
Absolutely.
it. All right, so let's wrap it up. Any last thoughts on the whole ROI piece? Anything major, specific again, in addition to what we talked about, and maybe not?
Now we focus really on the bachelor degree.
Yeah.
Sadly, nearly half of master's degree programs leave students financially worse off.
Really?
Yes,
Talk about that real quick. Why is that?
the professional degrees in law, medicine, and dentistry are extremely lucrative, but even the MBA frequently has a lower and negative payoff.
Wow.
And it comes down to you're missing out on earnings for those 2 years, right? 2 or 3 years.
But
So
hang on. So I'm just, I would think that the earning loss would be greater with undergrad than masters, only because this is my thoughts, that typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, that once you hit the master's level program opportunity, you're working too. Am I wrong?
for some you are, and for some you're
Okay.
not.
Fair.
So if you're not working, then okay. But I really think, and also it's the time at which you are working. So I worked with a really bright young man who got his degree from Bradley, went to work for 5 years, applied to 3 master's programs for his MBA, got accepted to Northwestern. That's where he went. But he didn't work during that time.
Mm.
So now you're looking at 27, 28 years old. He had 5 years of experience working first, and then he took 3 years off.
Mm.
So that's really that's hard. And is his job going to be that much greater? Will he make that much more because of the MBA? Maybe, maybe not.
What would a program like that run today?
Oof. Yeah, and therein lies the problem. That's just a lot. It's a lot of money. I mean, you're
Yeah.
looking at probably, I don't know, 60, 80, similar,
Yeah.
somewhere between 60 and 80,000 a year.
And or plus interest, maybe.
Yeah, plus interest as well.
Yeah. Wow.
Plus on that being said, I am always in favor of more education.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even the kids who don't go to college, get an associate's degree, get a trade certificate, do something so that those things will help you out much further, and you'll see something much faster.
I agree. And I do think, and many agree, that at a certain point in your life down the road, if you don't have those building blocks, right? You're like a deer in headlights at some point in your life, and look back and say, what just happened?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. All right. Well, Mr. Jensen, I appreciate it. I really do. Continue the good work of helping students out and getting them where they got to be. And maybe we'll catch up again.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just stand by 1 second.